Film School's coverage is brought to you by Blackmagic Design, amazing solutions for film, post-production, and television.
Hi, I'm Oakley from No Film School, and at Sundance 2016, I got a chance to talk to the filmmakers of Nuts. This documentary is, on the one hand, the story of notorious con man J.R. Brinkley. But on the other hand, the film is taking you on such a wild ride of misinformation, it challenges the notion of what a documentary is to begin with.
He had a sort of weird sex appeal.
He was kind of like the Dr. Ruth Westheimer of the 20s and 30s.
He was already grooming himself for the next move.
The harder they hit me, the higher I bounce.
XCRA was the world's most powerful broadcasting station.
He had a million ideas and had a huge influence on the course of popular culture. He saw the future.
I sat down with Penny Lane, the director, and Tom Stylinski, the writer, and asked them, are filmmakers themselves con men?
Yeah, I noticed some similarities between the process of sort of spinning a tale, telling a good story, and lying. Conning, bullshitting. I mean, so lying isn't the best term. I prefer bullshitting. Because bullshit is neither true nor false, or in fact, it has no relationship to truth at all. When you're bullshitting, you're just bullshitting. It doesn't matter. Bullshit can be true, bullshit can be false. It's irrelevant. When you're lying, right? So yeah, bullshitting and storytelling are kind of the same thing, I think. So I'm not sure if it's a con, but there's it's very similar, you know? And so when Tom and I started working on the movie, Tom hates documentaries, which he can tell you about, and he refused to watch any documentaries as like preparation for the film. And so he kept saying like, well, we just gotta, you know, like punch it up and like, and I was like, but we can't, it's a documentary, you can't just make things up. And he was like, yes, we can, because that's what this film is about, you know, and like we have to make Brinkley seductive. We have to make the story insanely entertaining. We have to like make it too good to be true, because that's kind of like the point of the whole movie. But yeah, I want you to talk about that.
For me, it's not a con and it's not lying. It's just manipulation and directing the audience to a certain emotion, a certain thought. That, you know, con men do that. Filmmakers do that too, but filmmakers I don't think are con men.
Your previous films, including Our Nixon, were all like found footage documentaries. And you know, the voices, this narration, but also the animation and also the interviews. Those are all like new things, new territory for you.
You know, the interviews were really important to the film, because for the film to function, it had to be a documentary. You needed to read it as a documentary for it to have the power that it had. You wouldn't, if I had said, here's a fiction film based on true events, you wouldn't have been as convinced by it, I don't think. You wouldn't have been as seduced by it. And the reveal, kind of third act reveal, wouldn't be as powerful. Like, it would be interesting. It's gonna be a great fiction film someday. I'm excited to see the remake. But for what we were doing, it had to be a documentary. Yeah. So like for us, we were like, what are documentary conventions? We need to have a narrator, you know, and we wanted it to be like the most neutral narrator ever. So that like, you weren't thinking about it. Like it's like sort of neutral, almost boring. Like someone like you, who's a sophisticated documentary viewer, might be like, actually, this narrator's almost bad, it's so boring. Do you know what I mean? Like until it's like, oh.
So conventional. How could they use something so conventional?
That's right, it's so, that's right. The first act was the hardest part for us, because it's kind of more conventional than the rest of the film.
Yeah, it's almost the movie that we didn't want to make.
Yeah.
It's just like the...
Well, because he hates documentaries. So he was like, every time it was like, oh, talking head cutting to B-roll, he was like, like, cut it. And
why don't we have a chase scene?
Exactly. Why not have a gunfight and an explosion? And I was like, because we have to establish that this is a documentary. You know, so the first third for us is actually really hard to watch.
Yeah.
You know, this film, it seems like it's such an interesting film for filmmakers to watch, to have a discussion about what is filmmaking, what is documentary, is there a difference? What would be some of the discussions that you think should come out of this? Like, what should we be talking about as filmmakers?
You know, the choices that we make in this film are very, very, very manipulative in a way that I never would be comfortable doing in any old documentary, because it would make me a bad person who is unethical and a bullshitter. And I don't want to be a bullshitter like in life, this film is about bullshit and about teaching you something about bullshit. For example, what does it look like? How do you know if you're being bullshitted? How do you know if you're being conned? You know, what are documentary conventions that you should be more cognizant of? If you have any idea what it takes to make an entertaining movie, man, like, it takes a lot of bullshit, it takes a lot of manipulation, it takes a lot of playing with the facts, you know, like breaking chronology, editing an interview down, you know? Yeah, when you edit an interview, you are like kind of bullshitting. And if you do a good job, nobody knows you're bullshitting. This is where you should have a purposeful jump cut so that you can show the audience that you're editing.
Great. Well, that's wonderful. That's all the questions I had. You guys did a great job.
You're awesome. That was an awesome interview.
Cool.